All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Austin. Garrett is also the host here. We brought on Max. He is a 2017 grad from the Air Force Academy. Both Garrett and I are Air Force Academy grads, and we wanted to bring somebody on that has started a business. It actually has gone really well. He has a couple businesses in the past that he's learned a lot from, and this business that he is currently running. He's learned a lot from it and done really well. So we wanted to bring him on and talk about what are the things, like how did he start it, what are some good stories, and what are some lessons learned from it. So Max, I'll hand it over to you real quick. If you want to say anything about yourself, and then talk about your business.
Yeah, for sure. And first and foremost, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. But my name is Max Edson, originally from Hermosa Beach, graduated from the Air Force Academy, was in the Air Force for 6 years and got out. Currently in the DC area now. But yeah, fortunately enough, I was able to start a couple businesses while I was in, and then allowed me to transition out pretty fluidly. So it's been a great time.
Love it. So in like 1 to 2 sentences, like, could you explain your business right now? Because I mean, I've known you for a while, and I like kind of know the inner workings of it, and we can dive into a little more if Garrett's interested on that. But like 1 to 2 sentences, what did you build?
Yeah, and it's actually separated into two separate businesses since. But so we have LandX, which is a company where we buy and sell land, so essentially flip land, but we also develop on it too. And then we have our other company, which is a real estate software company called Priced, and that's where we provide research, lead generation, due diligence to investors so they can buy off-market properties with a specific focus in land as well.
Awesome. Garrett, do you have specific questions to begin with?
Is this like Zillow for land? Like, I know that, like, yeah. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what do you mean off market, like land purchases?
Black market.
No, it's a great question, and it's a super unique niche in the real estate space. So typically, when you go and try to buy a house, you're buying on the market, you're looking at Zillow, you're working with a realtor and trying to find property through that way. However, there's a lot of different processes where you can try to buy off-market off-market properties, and to do that, you need to find properties that obviously are in the market through public property data. So essentially, what we're doing is allowing users, or investors in this case, to search on our platform saying, "Hey, I want to buy 5 to 10 acre properties in X county or X location." And then we can give them a list of those public property records for them to then go and reach out to those owners to try to buy off market. Part of our core competency, though, is that if you go on Realtor, if you go on Zillow.com, you can see what the valuation is for a house really easily. It'll give you this estimate right on there. But if you try to look up a piece of land, it won't. And so part of our model is that we've aggregated comps all over the country, and then we're able to create our own model to show you what the market value is for each parcel of land in that list that we provide you. And so with that, you have, again, investors reaching out to those owners and trying to figure out if they can buy it for less than what it's worth. And again, this information is not readily accessible as far as like what that valuation is. It's really hard to determine. So we allow the investors to have a starting point, and then they can work backwards from there. And so in our case, our company LandX, we do this ourselves. And so we use our company Priced to pull the list. And then what we do is called blind offers. So we're sending legitimate letters to these property owners, offering them a price that's less than what we believe the market value is of that property. And so we're hoping to get it for less, and then we can either flip that property or develop it and then sell it from there. So it's really unique, kind of randomly found my way in it, but that's ultimately what we do. So, and that's how you can kind of find properties that are off market and give you an advantage to, buy less than what it's worth.
Yeah, no, super interesting. And it makes a lot of sense that it's like, just because somebody has not listed their land doesn't mean that they're not willing to talk. Right. It's kind of like,
and some people don't even know they own the land, or they inherit it, and or people want to get rid of it. There's so many like edge cases where you're like, oh my gosh, like, and they're kind of like ripe for the picking, because they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm paying taxes on it, blah, 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 all these other things. So it's a cool niche business for sure. And Max, I just, this was we, you know, oddly enough, we kind of started buying and selling land. We were part of a little group because it was like, man, this seems like it's like a no-brainer, but obviously, you know, we kind of went different paths, and then all of a sudden, when I guess this is fun for me because originally you guys were just buying and selling land, right? When was the light bulb moment for you and your you know, co-founder to be like, you know what? We could set up our own platform and help people buy land. Like, when was that light bulb moment for you?
Yeah, and so it actually started quickly after our little stint ended, because what we were doing is we were going through the whole, you know, land process where you have to first figure out which areas or locations are best to try to target. And then you have to figure out, as far as price point goes, how much do I want to spend to acquire a property? And then how many records can I download in that area to make it, you know, a good enough list where I can actually get some people to respond back. And then I have to price it, and then I have to send it out, and then I have to intake those calls. So it was an extremely manual
Laborious
process. Yeah,
really,
really manual, tedious, took weeks to do. And I was in the Air Force at the time, and we were both in the Air Force at the time.
Yeah.
And so it just wasn't feasible with my schedule as far as like being able to, you know, do my work during the day and then also try to do this at the same time. So when we took a step back, I still liked the idea, but I needed to figure out a way to kind of, you know, expedite that process. And it really was an opportunity to do it. And you could tell that there was very clear steps. I was in an education class that told you and taught you how to flip land. And so there was a very like process oriented way to go about it. And I knew one of my buddies at the time who was at the Air Force as well. He was more in tech and a developer. And so we were trying to figure out something at the time. We were working on some other, you know, minor projects that didn't go too well. And so we came to the conclusion to try to figure out what next to work on. And I mentioned that this land flipping thing has a lot of opportunity, but just needs to be streamlined. And so I showed him the process. He went to work on stuff. We kind of put our heads together and created this fluid process as far as like being able to do the research, do the lead generation, and then price them all in one step. So then we can just send the list out and not deal with that. So we basically took something that went from a couple of weeks basically to less than an hour. And that was just specifically for our own process.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were just trying to speed up our own process. However, there's so many chats out there that we were trying to get feedback on how to basically, again, refine our own process, that they're saying, hey, this is a pretty cool idea. Would you be open if we used it, or I used it, you know, or, you know, giving it to this group? I mean, didn't even think about it at the time, but thought that that could be an interesting approach. So we sat on that. We didn't do anything. And then, you know, part of the education group, and we can go into this too, but we try to bring it to them first. And then
That's
long
a good
story short,
so,
there was some, you know, stuff in between that happened, but ultimately we decided to release it to the public, create our own website and company around it. And so that really took off from there. And so we've been running that now for 7 years. And so it's been amazing to have that grow, and then also have, you know, our land business grow alongside it, where we still use that today. And then we've been able to meet and talk to so many investors in this space because of that as well.
Very cool. That's honestly, like, it reminds me of like the Slack kind of story where they built an internal tool that they were like, this is really, really good. And they were trying to like build like a video game at the time. And then they were like, well, it seems like everybody likes this tool we built internally. Let's see if other people would want to use that. And so I think that's such a cool use case for, hey, we built this for ourselves, and then other people just wanted to use it. So it was something that you were already proving out. Very, very cool. And then Garrett, do you have any questions on that?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, great analogy to Slack. There's lots of those abound. Like, you're solving a problem well for yourself because you know it. Yeah, I'm interested in kind of like the decisions that you make and kind of like how you bring it to market, and like who you thought your end customer was. Is it like these are retail investors, these institutional investors? Because I imagine like that education group strikes me as something like, hey, I want to get into flipping land. I'm going to go sign up for this course. So that sounds like retail. Like, what was that like the process behind like, okay, who would this actually be for if it's not just for us?
Yeah, no, great question. So it was mainly retail. For institutional, there's levels to it. So we get basically people on our site that is just starting out trying to learn and do a side gig as far as, oh, let me flip a property too. But then you have legit companies that I don't know if I would call them institutional, but they're fairly good sized businesses that use it to download it and get a lot of lead generation from there. But to bring it to market, that was a really tough challenge for us, because we probably had 3 or 4 different companies before this that we tried to bring to market, and they did not work at all. They were epic failure. We learned everything along the way, but it was tough, and we realized like we were both not marketers ourselves either, and didn't really like the marketing process. So that was a challenge to us. So the first thing we did was bring it to the education program that I learned from. Basically said, hey, this is a tool. We basically took the process that we learned from you and automate it. Would you like to be a partner in this, or even really just take it and let us be on the coattails? Because they had a big platform, they already had the audience, and then they had the people bringing on to learn who didn't know anything to begin with. So,
and they seemed like nice people.
Yeah, they seemed like nice people. Again, I was in Hermosa. They lived where I lived at the time, just randomly, and so I bumped into them. Said that was how I started, and was like, hey, you should look at this. And we sent them the stuff, and then I saw them a couple other times. We got pretty serious with everything. We were in contract talks, but then they were dragging their feet a little, and I basically confronted them. It's like, what's going on? What's the issue? What can we do still? And as weird as it was, they're like, we like you, we don't like your partner. And that was super strange to me.
They probably didn't even know your partner, so it was just like, what the heck?
The only thing they knew is from just talks on the phone. And so that was weird. And it was really, I think, more the thing, they just didn't know him. But so I had to have and they're like, if it was just you, we would do it. And so I had to have the heart-to-heart talk with my partner early on before anything even really started. It was like, hey, I don't know why, but this is where they're at. If for whatever, like they'll do it, but not if you're involved. And so we came up with the idea, basically, that like we needed him for the tech background and and coding on the back. So it's like, if you're okay with just like we still had our 50-50 partnership. If you're okay with just doing the tech stuff, but then I will talk with them on every single thing, then we'll do that. And so I went back to them. The education program, they seemed okay with it, and they got a contract drawn up. I was supposed to meet them at a site to go over everything and sign it, and then they backed out last minute and said that we have all these different things going on, and then there's other platforms out there that do something similar.
Sounds shady.
And we were like, this is weird, but whatever it is, that's we don't really have an option to pursue it. So then we actually put it to the side at that point, and we didn't think anything of it. We created an MVP website for them on Wix, just super simple, so we could show them like what it could possibly look like, and just had the back end with basically research, and someone can kind of do minimal stuff on there. So we put that to the side, and we went on to another project, honestly, because we thought that was dead at the time, and we didn't want to do anything unless we did it automated. And we just, I don't know, at that time we were just kind of fed up, and we moved on to something else.
Well, and you guys were kind of still super busy with your day jobs, right? At that point.
Yes,
so it was like one more extra thing that you're like, hey, we can't do this unless it's like buttoned up.
Exactly. So we still had that on. We still had the Wix side on. We turned on, like on Wix, you can turn on like little notifications if someone like reaches your website. So we had that on just as a default setting. Yeah, just to see. And so we went on to other projects, and every once in a while we would just hear like a ding on your phone or notification, like someone visited your website. I'm like, we're not even doing anything with this. Like, it's just there. And it would just continue to kind of grow for the next like 3 months. And we're like, maybe there is something here. And so we went back to it. We put some feelers out there again. And then we were just like, you know what? The heck with it. We're just going to launch it, because it was like nothing for us at the time. Maybe it was like $200 total. We'll just launch it, and if nothing happens, nothing happens. And so we we launched in, I think, June or something of 2020, and like just a soft launch, no big thing or anything. And we had just one person. And again, once we launched it, we put in more notifications. So if anyone accessed the website or different pages, it would let us know. And one of the coolest things was just seeing the first customer access the website. And then you needed like 4 different pages to pay for our services, or 3 different pages. So seeing them go from page to page, like every, I don't know, minute or so, and just the tension between that, will they actually get to the end or not? It was like one of the funnest and coolest things to experience, as far as like getting your first customer through that. And then we ended up refunding them, because you're like, this is the most awesome thing. Like, your first customer, here's your money back. But from there, we're like, okay, I think we have, so let's do like a bigger launch. And so one of my friends that I met in the space had another education platform separate from the one we were pursuing earlier, and tested out with them. And basically he was like, okay, I don't like these other people. And he reached out to me and said, they were actually, from what I heard, trying to create their own competing project and a product of yours. And so like, I don't like them. Come on my podcast and let's launch this thing. And so we went on their podcast, launched it officially, and then we just basically had a flood of people that came to our site. And then we were on, on from the races. So yeah, off to the races from there. And so it was a super cool thing, really random, and we were fortunate how it ended up coming out. Yeah. We were going to give up like 85% of our company to that other initial, program that we were trying to do business with. And then through this route, we ended up retaining 100%.
That's awesome.
Dude, blessing in disguise.
Yeah, exactly. So it's never a straight, line in business, and you never know what's going to lead to better opportunity when something closes. So it's yeah.
Well, that's what the funny part like about this is this wasn't like your first business venture, right? Like you said, you said, and I think, did you guys try to start something at the academy, and then right after the academy you tried to start like a market or something like that? But like, this is what I'm getting at, is this wasn't your first like crack at it. Like, you had tried a couple different things, right?
Yeah, we tried a few different things. At the academy, we tried to create an application that brokerage accounts could basically connect to, and then we would control a game. And so when people played our game and paid money for skins or whatever the heck they're paying money nowadays for application games, that instead of it being a sunken cost, it would actually be going into an IRA account for them. So they'd basically be investing in their future without knowing it. And then the brokerage account gets good marketing, by having that, and then eventually they have a long-term customer. So that was a great idea, but it's very hard to actually in execution. And then we tried to create a crypto trader application that we took like a year probably to make. We didn't get any feedback at all on it and released it. And we got one person to buy it instead of basically like didn't work, was horrible. And then we realized our mistake there. And then there's a few other things, in the way there too, but every bit of it, yes, they were failures, but we learned something new every single time. And we took that and applied it to the next product. And so by the time we got to, Landex and price and creating that product, we had a lot of things that we actually like, the exact same code almost that we took from some of the earlier things and just moved it over there and then tweaked it a little bit. And then, got feedback every step of the way. So we knew that we had a product that was going to at least be in demand to some degree.
And Garrett, any questions? I will always jump in, but so I was just going to say, like, and just your co-founder, how did you guys meet at the academy, or did you guys already know each other? I know you said you played hockey. I didn't know if he was another hockey player. How'd you guys meet?
Yeah, he was another hockey player. So we were both playing hockey, and just the hockey community, we're really close with everyone. So I knew he was a hard worker. I knew he still had a lot of interest in creating something, outside of the Air Force as an entrepreneur. And he created his own separate thing while he was at the Air Force Academy too. So
cool.
So he had, he had the experience. He had the desire to do it. And we just, dipped our toes in with other projects first to see, would this even work? And then from there, we kind of jumped all in with, when this stuff took off.
What's interesting about that, so, and we can dive into that a little more, is I remember, so Max was the first person to tell me about Robinhood. He was like, dude, you should get on Robinhood. And he got like $10 or $20 or something like that if I came on. And so this was 2017.
Yeah.
And I went on Robinhood and I bought Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went from I think it was like $2,000 to like $9,000 or something crazy. And I showed Max, I was like, dude, it just went off. Or it was like 7,000, 9,000. He's like, dude, sell that right now. Sell that right now. Dude, that never happens. Cause he had been in investing. His dad was, I think your dad's an investor. And so
yeah,
he had done it for a while. And so like me being a fresh, Robin Hooder, was like, nah, dog, I'm not selling. I'm riding this thing to 100,000. So anyways, but it's just kind of funny because I feel like Max is like, he's young, but also he has a lot of wisdom from the business for sure.
Max, a couple weeks ago, we talked about, do you know the whole like Leopold Aschenbrenner, like situational awareness thing?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, basically like, the wisdom there is this guy had this massive portfolio hedge fund and super levered, and then just had like a moderately bad day. And had to liquidate his entire
yes,
position.
no, I do know the whole AI. Yes, yeah, I do.
It.
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, like whether or not it's the right decision or the wrong decision, you can never really know. So telling Austin to sell, right or wrong, right? You don't know what the future is, but you're kind of like the wisdom there. Like you got the spider, sense at the back of your neck saying, "Hey, this is a time where you should be alert because, human nature would say you should double down. Look at how great this is going." It's like, well, hey, that seems like abnormal considering if you look at what the market is doing in general.
Past behavior for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I did tell him to buy back in when it was lower though. So
great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Sell high, buy low.
There you go.
Yeah.
So and then I was gonna go on to one other thing. Basically, I love that you were doing this while you were still in it as like a side project, right? Like I think a lot of people want to do something outside of their main job because they're just like, they have like a hankering for like, hey, I just kind of want to do something like entrepreneurial, like do a side business. What would you tell people that are trying to do something outside of their normal job? And not to mention, did you find it super helpful to have somebody doing it with you? Like I'm kind of leading you down that road, but like, what advice would you give people?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is just being persistent, knowing that it's probably not going to work out on the first try, but being able to, build something, fail multiple times, take those lessons learned, and then, continue to grow and continue to build something. Because all you need is one thing to work, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people will try once or twice, and are afraid of failure. They don't want to say anything, and you stop, and maybe that third one could be it. And so I can tell, this was probably my 7th or 8th thing I tried.
And when was when's the first time you tried something at the Academy? So it was like 2015, 2016 or when?
Yeah, it was probably somewhere around there. I tried to do some day trading first, even before the other project I did. And
here it's like naughty, not
no, I'm
not
saying
good.
it's just classic. It's like you're like
it is classic.
What's the best like time efficient way I could make a bunch of money? What about day trading?
While I'm at the Academy trying to graduate.
Oh.
But that's the thing. From 2015 to 2020, right? Like it's 5 years, and that's actually like kind of a short amount of time to actually make something that's really, really good. Obviously, being younger and having the bandwidth and doing it with somebody that you really know, like those things play into account. But it took you 5 years to really find something that exploded. I feel like. Yeah,
because it was day trading, that brokerage thing that I was mentioning earlier. I did some digital marketing, some MLM stuff. Even I did multifamily real estate. That actually ended up working.
Jack of all trades, it sounds like.
Another day trading automated system, crypto system, and then this stuff. And so it took a while, but what I learned too through all of that as well is not just like persistent and build whatever will make you money. Like try to think of something that will be able to be built around your ideal lifestyle, right? So like for me, I didn't want to be stuck in one place. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be in, even working on something all the time. So I needed something that was scalable without me constantly working on it. And then it needed to be something that I could remotely do so I can travel, or right now, like, be with my wife, and she's still in the Air Force. So we're still bumping around, but it doesn't affect my day-to-day stuff. So like, I wanted those two things to be basically pillars for whatever business I built. Because if I didn't have that, I knew I couldn't have something that's sustainable long term, or something that I'll just be fed up with, or be frustrated with. So the first thing, once I got my first couple, failed businesses, I'd kind of reassess like what would actually work with what I'm doing, instead of being frustrated about I don't have time to do it. And so that really opened up my eyes as far as like, okay, here are the right businesses to focus on with what I'm trying to accomplish. And that helped me. And then the other thing is, build something that there's some other trouble in your life. Like, for the first little bit, I was trying to build something that I thought could make money for other people, which is great. But then once we created, Land X and tried to flip land, we built something for ourselves. So even if that product failed, it was still valuable to us and helped us in our own business. And so that was another shift for me, where it's like, why do I need to build something for someone else where it could be something for me? And if I'm having that same problem, though, it could be, a problem that other people are experiencing. So it was just another way to de-risk the situation, as far as, okay, if that failed again, it is still valuable. It wasn't wasted effort. And so that's what I was trying to think of, what works for me that could potentially work for other people. And again, that was one thing that helped me move.
I love that, man. That's such good advice. Kind of wrapping it up here, I think that's a great place to kind of finish it, because that's such good advice for anybody that is just thinking about trying to start something. The idea of saying, hey, how can this fit my lifestyle, so that I'm not like literally breaking my back to try to make this thing work. It's like, in the short term, like, figure out ways that you can do it in your spare time. And then the second thing that you said right there was fixing your own problem. Like, start with yourself and be like, okay, how can I fix my own problem? And then the other thing on top of that, the resilience aspect, you said that earlier. You're like, man, your first, second, third, fourth idea might not work, but it might be that fifth, maybe that sixth idea that does work. You just got to be consistent. So, Garrett, do you have anything? I think that's a great place to finish up.
No, and I love having you on, just hearing the story and kind of like the way that you frame all the things that you tried. Like, I think the low ego, I'm just going to give it a shot approach, and that persistence really pays off. And in this case, it did, right? It's like your willingness to be like, oh, this wasn't that great, or like something's wrong here, and not getting wrapped around or giving up on yourself or your co-founder. So, I'm like inspired hearing kind of like your trajectory over time, and get to the point where we're at now, where it's like, looking back, it's pretty amazing. I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of reflect on this recently, but I just want to say kudos to you for all the work you put in to
Appreciate
build
it.
something valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on, Max. This was awesome. Good first episode. I feel like we got the down and dirty. We'll definitely have you on again, talk about some other fun stories. But if you want people to follow you or anything like that, is there a good place for that, or you're just, what do you?
I
reach
think
out about Landex or Priced.
I think the best way would just be to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you search Max Edson, I should be able to pop up right on LinkedIn. So that's probably the best place to reach me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, brother. And hopefully you keep on building this thing, and maybe, it could take over the world. So we'll see.
Who knows? Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
For sure, brother. Thanks.